The text came from a number I'd never seen before. Stock up. They're coming. You have 4 days. I stared at the screen of my burner phone. Yeah, I kept a burner phone, don't ask me why. Trying to figure out if this was some kind of prank. The thing is, I didn't give that number to anyone. Hell, I barely remembered buying the phone in the first place. Just woke up one morning 3 years ago and found it in my desk drawer, brand new in the box, like I'd been planning for something I couldn't remember. Story of my life, really. I was standing in the back room of Mercer's General Supply doing my 3rd inventory check of the week. Not because I needed to. I knew exactly what I had. 23 cases of canned beans, 15 of corn, 8 of tomato sauce, 42 rolls of duct tape, 63 packages of batteries, sorted by size. I knew because I'd counted them yesterday. And the day before that. Mrs. Henderson from down the street called me a hoarder once. She wasn't wrong, but she also wasn't paying attention to the right details. I wasn't hoarding trash or newspapers or broken appliances. I was stockpiling supplies, food, water purification tablets, first aid kits, the kind of stuff you'd need if everything went to shit, which according to this text was about to happen in 4 days. I rubbed the scars on my forearms without thinking about it. They were strange scars, thin silver, perfectly parallel lines running from my wrists up to my elbows. Like someone had taken a precision instrument and marked me for some purpose I couldn't remember. Sometimes when I got anxious, they tingled. Right now, they were practically burning. Talking to yourself again, Cale. I jumped, spinning around to find old Mr. Peterson standing in the doorway with a smirk on his weathered face. He'd been shopping here since before I inherited the place from Mrs. Chen 3 years ago. Just organizing, I said, forcing a smile that probably looked as fake as it felt. You need something? Yeah, I wanted to pick up some motor oil, but I gotta ask. He gestured at the overstocked shelves around us. You building a doomsday bunker back here or what? Just like to be prepared, I muttered, moving past him toward the front counter. Prepared for what? Nuclear war? Zombie apocalypse? He laughed at his own joke. I didn't laugh back. Couldn't shake the feeling that tingling in my scars was trying to tell me something. After Mr. E. Peterson left with his motor oil and a comment about me being wound tighter than a $2 watch. I locked the front door and flipped the sign to closed. It was only 4 in the afternoon, but I couldn't focus. Couldn't stop thinking about that text. I pulled out the burner phone again, staring at those 7 words. No sender ID. No way to call back. Just a warning from someone who knew this number existed. The TV in the corner was playing the news on mute. I always kept it on, another habit I couldn't explain. But when I glanced at it now, the closed captions made my blood run cold. Severe flu outbreak in Portland has hospitals overwhelmed. CDC recommends residents avoid contact with symptomatic individuals. Symptoms include high fever, aggression, and... Portland was 40 miles away. And my hands started shaking before my brain could process why. It was like my body knew something my conscious mind didn't. This had happened before, muscle memory kicking in without any actual memory to back it up. Like the time I'd instinctively assembled a rifle I'd never touched, or when I'd drawn a tactical map of the town for fun and only realized afterward that I'd marked perfect defensive positions and kill zones. The phone buzzed again. Barricade building, stay off grid, trust no one. That initial. V. It meant something. It meant something important. But the harder I tried to remember, the more my head started to hurt. I squeezed my eyes shut and saw white room, straps, cold metal table, someone standing over me in a hazmat suit. Subject 17 is ready for phase 3. I opened my eyes, gasping. And what the hell was that? Didn't matter. Couldn't matter. Whatever memories I'd lost 3 years ago when I woke up in that Seattle alley with no ID and no past, they were gone. All I had was now, this store, this life, and if someone was warning me that something bad was coming, I was going to listen. I spent the rest of the afternoon turning my building into a fortress. The thing about running a general supply store in rural Oregon is you've got everything you need for pretty much any situation. Want to build a shelter? I've got tarps, rope, lumber. Need to defend yourself? I've got hunting knives, axes, even a few compound bows. Water purification? Check. Medical supplies? Check. Food for months? Check and check. My building was 3 stories. Store on the ground floor, my apartment on the second, and a greenhouse on the roof that I'd built last year during a phase where I couldn't sleep and needed a project. The greenhouse had solar panels, a rainwater collection system, and enough vegetables growing to feed a small family. I started with the windows. Steel shutters I'd bought on impulse 6 months ago and never installed. Turned out I knew exactly how to install them. My hands moved with practiced efficiency, drilling, mounting, securing. It should have taken me all day. I finished in 3 hours. Next, the doors. I reinforced them with metal plating from the hardware section, added deadbolts. Installed a security bar system that would make it damn near impossible to break through from the outside. I was working on the side entrance when Riven Cade appeared. Riven ran the auto shop across the street. And we had what you might call a complex relationship. He thought I was paranoid. I thought he was obnoxious. We were both right. He was leaning against his beat-up pickup truck, arms crossed, watching me work with an expression somewhere between amusement and concern. "End of the world, Mercer?" he called out. "Or just another Tuesday?" I didn't look up from the drill. Something like that. You know, most people prepare for the end times by, I don't know, finding Jesus or spending time with family. You're over here building Fort Knox. "Don't have family," I said. The words came out harsher than I meant them to. There was a pause. When I glanced over, Riven's expression had shifted from mocking to something that might have been sympathy. His German Shepherd sergeant sat at his feet. He'd watching me with the kind of intense focus dogs get when they sense something's wrong. "Fair enough," Riven said finally. "But seriously, man, what's got you spooked?" I should have brushed him off. Should have given him some bullshit excuse about storm preparation or insurance requirements. Instead, I heard myself say, "You watching the news about Portland? The flu thing, yeah, sounds nasty, but Portland's 40 miles away. We're fine out here." "Maybe." I finished securing the last bolt on the door. "Or maybe you should consider stocking up on supplies just in case." Riven studied me for a long moment. Then Sergeant growled. A low rumbling sound that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. The dog was staring at my arms, at the scars. "Your dog got a problem with me?" I asked. Riven frowned. That's weird. Sergeant doesn't usually..." He paused, looking between me and the dog. "Nah, he's just being weird. Probably smells something dead in the woods." But Sergeant kept growling until Riven finally dragged him away with a "See you around, Fort Mercer." I watched them go, then looked down at my scars. They were still tingling. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in my apartment on the second floor, surrounded by boxes of supplies I'd brought up from the store. Bottled water, canned food, first aid kit, weapons. I'd arranged everything in a grid pattern on the floor, organized by category and priority. This wasn't normal behavior, I knew that. Normal people didn't spend their evenings playing Tetris with survival supplies, but then again, I didn't know what normal was for me. Maybe before I lost my memories, I'd been some kind of prepper, or military, or just deeply paranoid. The TV was showing more news about Portland. The flu was spreading faster than seasonal flu should. Hospitals were beyond capacity. The CDC was sending in teams. My phone buzzed. He 24 hours. I'm sorry for what they did to you. Vixie. I stared at that message for a long time. What they did to me. Who were they? What had they done, and who was V? I grabbed my journal, another habit I'd developed after waking up with no memories. Every night I wrote down my nightmares, tried to make sense of the fragments that came to me in sleep. Most recent entry. He running down white corridor, alarms blaring, hands covered in blood, but not my blood, someone else's. Behind me screaming. Ahead, locked door, keycard in my hand, wrong keycard, won't open. Ew, they're coming. And then I'd wake up, heart pounding, scars burning. I flipped through older entries. Same themes kept appearing. White rooms, needles, tests, pain. Someone named Dr. Vaughn who I couldn't quite see in the dreams, but who was always there, always watching. V, Dr. V. My hands were shaking as I picked up the burner phone and did something I'd never done before. I texted back. He. Who are you? He. The response came immediately. He. Someone who failed you once, won't fail again. Dr. V. What did you do to me? He. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, he saved your life and ruined it. Sleep while you can. Tomorrow everything changes. I didn't sleep. The screaming started at dawn. I was standing at my window, a coffee going cold in my hands, watching the sun come up over Timber Falls. It was supposed to be a beautiful September morning, supposed to be peaceful, quiet, normal. Then Mrs. Henderson started screaming. I saw her running down Main Street in her bathrobe, blood on her face, terror in her eyes. Behind her, shambling with an unnatural, jerky gait, was the mailman. Except it wasn't the mailman anymore. His uniform was torn, his skin had a gray pallor, and his eyes, God, his eyes were empty, dead. But his body kept moving. He caught Mrs. Henderson at the corner of Oak and Main. I turned away before I could see what happened next, but I heard it. Everyone in town probably heard it. More screaming, all around, the sounds of chaos spreading like wildfire. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. I was moving. He'd grabbing weapons from my cache, loading them into a duffel bag. Handgun, hunting rifle, axe, crowbar. My hands knew what to do, even though I couldn't remember ever being trained. Someone was pounding on my door. I grabbed the crowbar and approached cautiously, looking through the peephole. It was one of the infected. What else could I call them? A woman I vaguely recognized from the diner. She'd been pretty once. Now her face was a mask of rage and hunger, fingers clawing at my reinforced door. The door held. Thank God for paranoia. I backed away, checking the other windows. The street was full of them now. Running, attacking, feeding. And the few people who were still human were either running or fighting or dying. This was what Dr. V had warned me about. This was what I'd been preparing for without knowing why. And the pounding on my door stopped. I risked another look through the peephole and saw the infected woman had moved on to easier prey. She was chasing down Mr. Peterson, who was trying to run despite his bad hip. I should help him. I should do something. But I couldn't save everyone. Not if I wanted to survive. I was turning away when the front window exploded. One of them had thrown a trash can through my display window, and now it was climbing through, cutting itself on the broken glass, but not seeming to care. Blood dripped from its wounds, but it just kept coming, hissing and snarling. Training took over. I didn't think, just moved. 3 steps forward, crowbar swinging in a perfect arc. The strike caught the infected at the base of the skull with a wet crunch, and it dropped like a puppet with cut strings. I stood there, crowbar dripping, looking down at what I'd just done. Killed someone, something. The precision of it scared me almost as much as the act itself. That strike had been perfect, practiced, like I'd done it 100 times before. How do I know this? No time to think about it. More were coming. I grabbed plywood from my storage and started boarding up the broken window, working as fast as I could. Outside, the chaos was intensifying. The infection, because that's what this had to be, some kind of infection, was spreading faster than fire. That's when I heard the truck. Riven's beat-up pickup came screaming around the corner, Sergeant in the passenger seat barking his head off. Riven had a shotgun in one hand and was steering with the other, mowing down infected like he was playing some twisted video game. He skidded to a stop in front of my store and jumped out, Sergeant right behind him. "Open up, Mercer!" he was yelling, firing the shotgun one-handed at an infected that got too close. "You were right. You fucking psychic or what?" I hesitated for maybe half a second. Letting someone in was a risk, especially with infected so close, but Riven had been decent to me and Sergeant was a good dog. I couldn't leave them out there. I unbarricaded the door just long enough for them to dive through, then slammed it shut again. Riven immediately helped me push a heavy shelf against it for good measure. "Jesus Christ," Riven was breathing hard, pumping the shotgun. "Jesus Christ, Cale, what the fuck is happening? What the actual fuck?" "I don't know," I said, which was mostly true. "Some kind of outbreak, infection. Infection! They're eating people!" He looked at me with wild eyes. "How did you know? The boarding up windows, stocking supplies, you knew something was coming. Government inside info, you CIA or some shit." "I'm not CIA. At least I didn't think I was. Hard to be sure when you couldn't remember your life before 3 years ago." Sergeant was whining, pressing himself against the far wall, refusing to come near me, still spooked by something. Riven noticed. "Seriously, what's his problem with you?" I looked down at my scars. They were tingling again. "I don't know. Maybe he smells something wrong." "Wrong how?" Before I could answer, not that I had an answer, one of the infected crashed against the door, then another and another, and the shelf we'd pushed against it was holding, but we could hear them piling up outside, clawing and hissing. Riven checked his shotgun. "I got maybe 6 shells left. You got any ammo?" "Some, not a lot." I'd never been big on guns. Didn't like how comfortable they felt in my hands. "But I've got other weapons, axes, knives, crossbow. Medieval, but I'll take it." He looked around my fortified store, taking in the steel shutters, reinforced doors, and the obvious prep work. "You really did turn this place into a bunker." "When did you have time?" "Yesterday, after I got the warning." "Warning? Someone warned you this was coming?" I showed him my phone. The texts from Dr. V. Riven read them, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. "Who the hell is V? And how did they know?" "I don't know." But they were right. We spent the next hour watching through the shutters as Timber Falls tore itself apart. The infection spread with terrifying speed. Bite victims turned in what looked like 2 to 6 hours, then joined the horde. The infected were fast, aggressive, but not particularly intelligent. They ran on instinct, attack, feed, spread. Headshots dropped them. Nothing else seemed to work. Riven had figured that out the hard way before making it to my store. "My mom," Riven said suddenly. He was standing at the window, staring in the direction of the east side of town. "My mom's house is 4 blocks that way. She lives alone. Bad knees. She can't run." "Riven, I gotta go check on her." "It's suicide," I said flatly. "Look out there, you won't make it halfway." "She's my mother." He rounded on me, fury and fear warring in his eyes. "I can't just leave her to die. And getting yourself killed won't save her. At least I have family." The words came out sharp, meant to hurt. Then he saw my face and immediately looked guilty. "Shit, Cale, I didn't mean—" "It's fine." It wasn't fine, but what did it matter? "You're right. You have someone to protect. I don't." Riven ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. Don't you have anyone? What about before you came to Timber Falls? I don't remember. What do you mean you don't remember? I'd never told anyone this, never saw the point. But with the world ending outside, secrets seemed less important. I woke up 3 years ago in an alley in Seattle. No ID, no memories, no idea who I was, just my name and these. I held up my scarred arms. Riven stared. Shiat, you have amnesia? Retrograde amnesia. Everything before that day is just gone. And you didn't go to a doctor? Try to figure out what happened? I did. They ran tests, found nothing, said sometimes head trauma can cause memory loss, told me the memories might come back eventually. They hadn't. Well, except for the nightmares. I gave up after a while, figured whoever I was before, he's gone. I'm what's left. Riven was quiet for a long moment, then, so you woke up 3 years ago with no past and somehow you predicted zombie apocalypse? When he put it like that, it did sound suspicious. I didn't predict it, I just got a warning, and I believed it. From someone who signed their texts V. He looked at me with new interest. You think this person knew you before? From your missing memories? Maybe. Probably. They said they were sorry for what they did to me. Jesus, Cale. What if you were part of some government experiment or something? What if they did this to you? He gestured at my scars. I'd thought about that, had nightmares about it. Wouldn't matter now. Past is past. All we can do is survive the present. Philosophical for a zombie apocalypse, Riven muttered. Then his expression hardened with determination. I'm still going to check on my mom, but I'll wait until dark. Infected seems slower at night. And maybe you're right about not rushing in blind. He looked at me. Will you help me? I know it's asking a lot, but I'll help you. His relief was visible. Thank you. Seriously, man, thank you. On one condition, we plan this right. Tactical approach. You in and out, no heroics. Deal. But where'd you learn tactical planning? You remember being military? No. I grabbed paper and pencil, started sketching a map of town from memory. Streets, buildings, sight lines, defensive positions. But apparently I know how anyway. Riven watched me draw, his expression a mix of fascination and concern, and maybe a little fear. Smart man. We waited until full dark. The infected were still active, but Riven was right. They seemed less aggressive at night. Maybe the infection affected their vision. Maybe they were just dumb predators who hunted better in daylight. Either way, we'd take any advantage we could get. I'd laid out the plan using my hand-drawn map. We'd move through backyards and alleys where possible, avoiding Main Street. Riven knew the route to his mom's house by heart. I'd memorized it from the map. We'd check if she was alive, barricaded, and either extract her or leave her supplies to hold out. And if she's turned? I asked quietly. Riven's jaw clenched. Then I'd deal with it. We geared up in silence. I gave Riven a hunting knife and a flashlight. I took the crowbar and a hand axe. We both wore dark clothing and moved quietly. Sergeant whined when we left, clearly wanting to come. Riven crouched down and grabbed his dog's face. Stay, boy. Guard the fort. We'll be back. The dog huffed but obeyed. Outside, Timber Falls looked like a different world. Bodies in the streets, fires burning in the distance. The sounds of screaming had mostly stopped, which was somehow worse than when it was loud. It meant most people were either dead, interned, or hiding. I led the way, moving from shadow to shadow. My night vision was better than I expected, another unexplained skill. I could see clearly in the darkness while Riven struggled beside me. How can you see? He whispered. It's pitch black. I don't know, I just can. That's not normal, Cale. Nothing about me is normal. We made it 2 blocks before encountering our first infected. It was standing in the middle of someone's yard, swaying slightly like it was waiting for something. I signaled Riven to stop. We watched it for a full minute. It didn't react to us. Either it couldn't see us in the dark, or we were downwind. We gave it a wide berth and kept moving. Riven's mom lived in a small craftsman house with a garden she was proud of. As we approached, I could see the lights were off, but the windows were intact, curtains drawn, good signs. Riven approached the front door and knocked softly. "Mom, it's Riven. You in there?" Silence. He knocked again. "Mom, please, it's me." A floorboard creaked inside, then a whispered voice. "Riven?" "Yeah, Ma, it's me. You okay?" The door cracked open. Eleanor Cade was a small, tough woman of 68 who looked like she could still whip your ass if you gave her lip. She had a shotgun in her hands. "You shouldn't have come," she said, but she was pulling Riven into a hug even as she said it. "Had to make sure you were okay." "I'm fine, barricaded, got food, got Grandpa's guns." She noticed me standing in the shadows. "Who's that?" "Cale Mercer, runs the general supply." Eleanor squinted at me. "The weird one?" "That's him." "Thanks," I said dryly. "Come in, both of you, quick." Eleanor's house was as fortified as it could be with furniture and boards. She'd been watching the chaos from her windows, smart enough not to engage. She made us coffee because apparently the apocalypse didn't stop her from being a good host, while Riven tried to convince her to come back to my store with us. "No," she said firmly. "Ma, I'm 68 years old, Riven. I've got bad knees, high blood pressure, and I take 6 medications a day. I'd slow you down. We can carry you, and then what? I become your burden while you're trying to survive?" She shook her head. "I lived a good life, had a good son. That's more than most people get." "You're not dying today," Riven said, his voice breaking slightly. "Maybe not today, but soon enough with or without zombies." She grabbed his hand. "You boys go. Build something safe. Survive. That's what matters now." "I'm not leaving you." "Yes, you are, because I'm telling you to." Her voice was steel wrapped in love. "You'll check on me when you can, bring supplies, but you don't die for me. You live for you. Understand?" Riven was crying now silently. Eleanor pulled him into another hug. "I love you, boy. Now get out of my house before I shoot you both for being stupid." We left her extra ammunition and canned food from my pack. Riven kissed her forehead. She threatened to shoot us again if we didn't leave immediately. The walk back was quiet. Riven didn't say anything, and I didn't make him. Sometimes there's nothing to say, because we were 3 blocks from my store when it happened. One of the infected burst out of a shadowed alley. No warning, no sound. Just sudden movement and teeth. I shoved Riven out of the way. The infected's teeth caught my forearm instead of his throat. Pain exploded through me as its jaws clamped down. I smashed it in the head with my free hand, once, twice, until it let go and I could finish it with the crowbar. It dropped. I stumbled back. Riven was there, grabbing my arm, looking at the wound in horror. "Oh, God. Oh, God, you got bit. You're gonna turn." The bite was deep, ragged, blood running down my arm, soaking into my sleeve, right over those strange silver scars. "We gotta get you back," Riven was saying, panicking now. Maybe we can amputate, or... "It's fine," I heard myself say, even though I knew it wasn't. Everyone who got bitten turned. That was the rule. I'd just saved Riven's life and signed my own death warrant. We ran the rest of the way. Riven was crying again, apologizing, saying it should have been him. I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about those texts from Dr. V, about my scars, about the nightmares of needles and tests. What did they do to me? Back at the store, Riven wanted to call Sergeant over, but the dog just growled at me again. Something about me frightened him. "Basement," I said. Lock me in the basement. Kale! I don't know how long the turn takes. Could be hours, could be minutes. I'm not risking you or Sergeant. I grabbed his shoulder. When I turn, you shoot me. Headshot, clean. I don't hesitate. I can't. You have to. He was shaking. This is my fault. You saved me and now you honor that by surviving. That's the deal. I handed him my handgun. Basement. Now, before I lose it. The basement was my storage area, concrete walls, metal door. Lots of supplies, but no way out except through Riven. I sat down among the boxes of canned goods and waited to die. Riven locked the door. I could hear him crying on the other side. Hour 1. I felt normal. Cleaned the wound, waited for symptoms. Hour 3, nothing, no fever, no rage, no hunger for human flesh. Hour 6, still normal. I examined the bite wound. It was healing, already. Tissue knitting together faster than it should. Hour 12, Riven checked on me through the slot in the door. How you feeling? Fine. No symptoms. That's not possible. I know. Hour 24. The bite wound was closed, sealed over with new scar tissue, silver scar tissue, just like the others. I stared at my arm in the dim basement light, watching the last traces of the wound fade. This wasn't normal healing. This was something else. Riven unlocked the door, gun ready. When he saw me sitting there, alive and uninfected, he nearly dropped it. How? He whispered. I don't know. I held up my arm, showing him the new silver scar. But I think someone made me this way. I pulled out my phone and texted Dr. V. I got bitten. I didn't turn. What am I? The response came immediately. You're immune. I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner. What am I? You're subject 17. And you're the reason we thought we could stop this. You're the one who got away. Tell me everything. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Not over text, not safe. They're listening, but know this. Your immunity is real, complete. You can't be infected, but you can still be killed. Be careful, please. I showed Riven the exchange. He read it twice. You're immune to zombie bites? Apparently. How is that possible? Government experiment, probably. Before I lost my memories. I looked at my scars. I think they tested on me, over and over, creating immunity. That's what these scars are, bite marks, from before. Jesus Christ, Riven breathed. You're like a superhero or something, or a lab rat that got loose. Does it matter? You're immune. He was starting to realize what this meant. You can go outside without fear of infection. You can gather supplies, rescue people, all without risk of turning. I can still be torn apart if I'm surrounded. But scratches and bites won't kill you. That's huge. It was huge. It was also terrifying. Because if Dr. V was right and they were listening, whoever they were, then I'd just become the most valuable person in the apocalypse. And valuable things got taken. We don't tell anyone, I said. What, but you could save... We don't tell anyone, I repeated firmly. Think about it, Riven. If people find out I'm immune, what happens? They'll either want to worship me or dissect me. Neither ends well. He started to protest, then stopped. You're right. They'd want to study you, use you, and maybe cut you open to figure out how it works. Or use me as zombie bait. Hey, Kale, go stand in the middle of that horde and distract them while we escape. I shook my head. My immunity is our secret, just between us. And Dr. V, apparently, who's in hiding and won't even talk over the phone. I stood up, testing my newly healed arm. It felt strong, normal, like I'd never been bitten. We keep this quiet and we use it smart. I'll take point on supply runs, handle the dangerous stuff, but we don't advertise why. Riven nodded slowly. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. He paused. But Kale, if there comes a time when revealing it could save people, We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We went back upstairs. Sergeant still wouldn't come near me, but at least he'd stopped growling. Small victories. And I tested my immunity carefully over the next few days. Intentionally cut myself with a knife that had infected blood on it. Nothing. Smeared infected blood on an open wound. Nothing. Even drank water I'd contaminated with the virus just to be sure. Nothing. Complete immunity. It should have felt like a superpower. Instead, it felt like confirmation of my worst fears. Someone had made me into this, experimented on me until I couldn't be infected. And then I'd escaped somehow and lost my memories in the process. The question was, who did this to me and why? And were they coming back to finish what they started? 6 days after the outbreak began, we heard the broadcast. Riven had rigged up a radio receiver on the roof, scanning frequencies for any signs of life. Most channels were dead air. A few had automated emergency broadcasts on loop. But on day 6, we picked up something new. A human voice. Calm, authoritative, male. Attention survivors, this is Lieutenant Thorne Keaton of the National Guard. We have established Safe Zone Delta at Timber Ridge High School, 15 miles northwest of Timber Falls. We offer protection, food, medical care, and security. All survivors are encouraged to make their way to our location. Repeat. Safe Zone Delta is operational and accepting refugees. The broadcast repeated every hour. Riven wanted to dance. Medical care, food, other people. Kale, this is huge. I didn't share his enthusiasm. Something about that voice felt wrong. Too smooth, too confident, like a salesman selling something you didn't need. But maybe I was just paranoid. Maybe the government really had set up safe zones. Maybe there was still order left in the world. Or maybe I'd been experimented on by the government and had good reason not to trust them. 3 days after we heard the broadcast, Mira Hollis showed up at our door. She arrived at dawn, half carrying a kid through the infected-filled streets. She was covered in blood, not her own, mostly, and looked like she hadn't slept in days. The kid was maybe 9, wheezing badly, clearly struggling to breathe. I let them in immediately. Mira collapsed against the door once it was closed, gasping. Thank God I saw your lights. Thought maybe someone was still alive. You're the nurse from the clinic, I said, recognizing her. Was the nurse. Clinic's overrun now. She looked at the kid with desperate eyes. This is Tommy, my son. He's asthmatic. I ran out of his medication 2 days ago. Tommy was trying to breathe through an attack, lips turning blue. Not good. I've got some medical supplies, I said. But I don't know if I have asthma medication. Albuterol, inhaler, nebulizer, anything. I checked my stash. No luck. I'm sorry. Mira looked like she might cry. The hospital pharmacy would have some, but it's across town and... I'll go, I said. Riven stared at me. That hospital is crawling with infected. Tommy needs medication. I'll get it. Kale. I met his eyes with a look that said I'm immune, remember? He out loud, I said. I'll be careful. You stay here with them. Protect the fort. Mira looked between us, confused by the subtext. I can't ask you to risk your life for us. You're not asking, I'm offering. I grabbed my pack and weapons. What's his name again? Tommy. I looked at the kid. He was scared and struggling, but trying to be brave. Reminded me of something, someone, a memory that wouldn't quite surface. Hang tight, Tommy, I'll get your medicine. The run to the hospital was a nightmare. Timber Falls Regional Hospital wasn't big, 50 beds maybe, but it had been ground zero for the outbreak. Every infected who'd been sick or injured had turned there first, creating a dense concentration of the dead. I moved carefully, using my enhanced night vision to navigate. The hospital parking lot was full of abandoned cars and wandering infected. I counted at least 20 between me and the entrance. Time to test just how immune I really was. I'd been avoiding getting bitten again just in case the first time was a fluke. But now I needed to move fast and stealth wasn't an option. So I did something crazy. I walked right into the parking lot. No sneaking, no hiding. Just walked. The infected noticed immediately, started shambling toward me. I let the first one get close enough to grab me, and then I moved, fast. The training I didn't remember kicked in, and suddenly I was fighting like I'd done this 1,000 times. Strike to the knee, drop it. Stomp to the head, finish it. Next one. Dodge, counter, crowbar to the temple. Next. Grab, twist, throw it into 2 others, finish all 3. I fought my way through the parking lot like I was born for this. Enhanced reflexes I didn't know I had. Its strength just beyond normal human range. Combat instincts that felt like muscle memory. By the time I reached the hospital entrance, I was covered in blood and bites and scratches. And I didn't have a single symptom of infection. The hospital interior was worse. Dark hallways, flickering emergency lights, the smell of death and decay. Infected lurking in every room, drawn by the sounds of combat outside. I found the pharmacy on the 2nd floor. Locked, thankfully. The staff had tried to barricade it before they turned. I picked the lock with a skill I definitely shouldn't have and found myself in medical jackpot territory. Shelves of medications, antibiotics, painkillers, insulin. And yes, multiple inhalers of albuterol. I loaded my pack with everything useful, focusing on the essentials. And this wasn't just for Tommy, this was for our whole group's survival. That's when I heard it. Heavy footsteps. Something big. A massive infected, former orderly, maybe 6'4" and probably 280 in life, blocked the pharmacy exit. It was fresher than most, still had some intelligence in its dead eyes. And it was angry. We fought. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The thing nearly killed me. Immunity doesn't mean invincible. It grabbed me, threw me against a wall hard enough to crack ribs, bit me multiple times. Gouged flesh from my arms, but I fought back. Every hit I landed was precise. Every movement was trained. I didn't just survive the fight, I won it. Crowbar through the eye socket into the brain. It dropped. I lay there for a moment, ribs screaming, covered in wounds that were already starting to heal. And then I heard something that made me forget the pain. Voices, human voices, coming from the research wing. I followed them, moving quietly despite my injuries. Found a door marked Virology Lab, authorized personnel only. Inside, papers scattered everywhere, equipment smashed. But in the debris, I found something that made my blood run cold. A file folder, labeled Project Lazarus Subject Trials. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a photo of me, younger, maybe 25, labeled Subject 17, K. Mercer. Below that, medical records, test results, treatment protocols. He's Subject 17, K.L. Mercer. Military volunteer, terminal exposure to strain X pathogen during classified operation. Prognosis, 72 hours without intervention. Treatment. Experimental immunity serum derived from extinct viral strain, Project Lazarus protocol. Results. 100% immunity achieved. Subject shows complete resistance to strain X and all related infections. Side effects. Retrograde amnesia, permanent. Enhanced reflexes, beneficial. Accelerated healing, beneficial. Increased base strength approximately 25% above baseline. Subject escaped during facility breach caused by unrelated outbreak event. Current whereabouts unknown. Final note, handwritten. I'm sorry, Kyle, this wasn't supposed to happen. Dr. Alara Vaughn. I wasn't just immune, I was enhanced. And I'd been dying before they did this to me. I'd volunteered to save my own life and lost myself in the process. I took the file, took photos with my phone. And this was my past, and I deserved to know it. The way back was easier. I knew how to fight now, knew what I was capable of. The infected were just obstacles to remove efficiently. When I got back to the store, Riven nearly had a heart attack. Jesus Christ, you're covered in... He stopped, looked closer. Are those bites? Fresh bites? Yeah. Why aren't you? Because I told you, immune. I tossed him the medication. Give this to Tommy, I'll explain later. Later, after Tommy was breathing easier and Mira had finally fallen asleep from exhaustion, I showed Riven the file. He read it 3 times. So, you were military. Special forces probably based on how you fight. You got exposed to some bioweapon, volunteered for experimental treatment, and it worked but erased your memories? That's what it looks like. And this Dr. Vaughn, she's the one texting you? Has to be. Evie Alara Vaughn. She feels guilty about what happened to you. Apparently. I looked at my hands, these hands that knew how to kill. Everything makes sense now. The tactical knowledge, the combat training, the prep instincts. I was a soldier before they made me into whatever this is. A immune super soldier who can't remember his own past, Riven said. Man, your life is a movie. More like a horror movie. Fair. He was quiet for a moment. You know what this means, right? If that file exists here, there are probably copies. The government knows about you, about what you are. Yeah. They're going to come looking for you eventually. Yeah? That safe zone broadcast. You think it's a trap? I thought about Lieutenant Thorne Keaton's smooth voice, about how perfectly timed the announcement was, about how they'd set up shop exactly close enough to Timber Falls to be relevant. Let's find out, I said. We scouted Safe Zone Delta 3 days later. The plan was simple. Riven would go in as a refugee. I'd watch from a distance with binoculars. He'd gather intel on conditions, leadership, and whether they were looking for anyone specific. Then he'd get out and report back. Simple plans never work the way you want them to. Safe Zone Delta was at Timber Ridge High School, converted into a refugee camp. Chain-link fence perimeter, guard towers, searchlights, armed soldiers everywhere, maybe 200 survivors inside, housed in the gymnasium. Riven went through the intake process while I watched from the tree line. Medical screening, blood draw, registration, work assignment, all very organized, all very military. Too military. I was watching through the binoculars when I saw it. A guard at the fence was looking at a photo, showed it to another guard. They both looked around the perimeter. I couldn't see the photo clearly, but I didn't need to. They were looking for me. Then Riven came back into view and I watched him get escorted to the medical building. My stomach dropped. That wasn't part of the plan. I needed a closer look. Big mistake. I approached the fence perimeter, staying low, trying to see where they'd taken Riven. And that's when a guard on tower duty spotted me. Contact, north fence line. Alarms started blaring. I ran. Behind me, I could hear soldiers mobilizing. Radios crackling, someone shouting, "It's him! It's Subject 17! They knew. They'd been waiting for me. I led them on a chase through the woods using every bit of enhanced speed and reflexes I had. But they were trained, organized, and had numbers. Worse, the alarm had drawn infected from the surrounding area. I found myself caught between soldiers behind me and a horde of infected ahead. Had to make a choice. I chose the infected, crashed through them, letting them claw and bite while I fought clear. The soldiers couldn't follow. The infected were a wall between us. I made it back to Timber Falls, covered in wounds that were already healing. But Riven was still inside the safe zone. And they knew I existed. Riven came back 2 days later. He showed up at my door in the middle of the night, covered in soot, carrying a stolen radio and medical supplies. Behind him on the horizon, I could see flames. "What did you do?" I asked. Set their maintenance building on fire, caused enough chaos to slip out. He was grinning despite the exhaustion. You owe me a beer after this is over. Deal. I pulled him inside. What did you find out? It's bad. He dumped the stolen items on my counter. They're not just running a refugee camp, they're testing everyone's blood, looking for immunity markers, and they're specifically hunting you. How specifically? They have your photo, your file. Everything from Project Lazarus. He pulled out papers from his jacket. I stole these from the medical building. Look. I looked, felt my blood turn to ice. It was a military order, signed by Lieutenant Thorne Keaton. He priority directive, locate and secure Subject 17, Cale Mercer, by any means necessary. Subject is vital to continuation of Project Lazarus. Immunity serum must be reverse engineered for mass production. Subject's cooperation is preferred but not required. Use of force authorized. They're going to capture you, Riven said quietly. Use you to make more serum, whether you want to help or not. Over my dead body. That's the problem. They need you alive. I thought about that, about being strapped to a table again, tested, studied. He bled dry trying to save a world that might be too far gone to save. We need to leave, I said. Pack up and get out of Timber Falls before they come looking. Or we fight. I looked at him. Fight an organized military force? There's like 6 of us, counting Sergeant. 6 against 200. I've faced worse odds. No, you haven't. Okay, no, I haven't. But running just delays the problem. He grabbed my shoulder. Kyle, these people are going to keep looking for you, keep hunting you. Until you're either dead or in their custody. At least here we know the terrain. We've got fortifications. We've got supplies. We've also got Mira and Tommy to protect. And your mom. Riven's face darkened at the mention of his mother. About that, I tried to check on her on my way back. Her house was empty. He'd signs of struggle. Oh no. Either she evacuated to the safe zone or... He didn't finish. We'll find out. I made a decision. Okay, we stay. We fortify. We prepare. If they come for me, they'll have to go through all of us. That's the spirit. But I'm not letting anyone else die for me. If it comes down to it, I turn myself in. Like hell you do. Riven, no, listen to me. His voice was steel. You saved my life twice. You got Tommy his medication. You're the reason any of us are still alive. I'm not letting you sacrifice yourself. We're in this together. You barely know me. Yeah, well, welcome to the apocalypse. Makes friends fast. Despite everything, I smiled. We spent the next week preparing, reinforced the store's defenses, created escape routes and fallback positions, stockpiled ammunition, trained Mira in basic combat. Tommy was getting better. The asthma medication was helping. He was even starting to smile again, which felt like a miracle in itself. One night he approached me while I was doing inventory. Mr. Cale? Just Cale's fine, buddy. Cale, my mom says you're a hero, that you risked your life to get my medicine. I just did what needed doing. But you got hurt, right? I saw the blood on your clothes when you came back. I looked at my arms. The bites had healed into more silver scars. I got hurt, but I healed. Mom says that's not normal, that you heal too fast. Smart kid. It's complicated. Are you a superhero? I almost laughed. No, just someone who got lucky in a bad situation. Lucky how? How do you explain to a 9-year-old that you were experimented on by the government and turned into an immune freak? I had a rare medical treatment that made me resistant to the infection, but it's not something I can share. I wish I could. Tommy thought about that. Then, will you teach me to fight so I can protect my mom? That request hit me harder than it should have. You're 9, Tommy. So, the world ended. Age doesn't matter anymore. He had a point. Tell you what, I'll teach you to defend yourself, but you promised me something. What? You promised to stay a kid as long as you can. Don't grow up too fast just because the world's gone crazy. Deal? He considered this seriously, then nodded. Deal. I spent the next few days teaching Tommy basic self-defense. Nothing lethal, just how to break grabs, create distance, run away effectively. Mira wasn't thrilled, but she understood. Every skill could be the difference between life and death now. That's when Vesper showed up. She arrived at our door on a Tuesday morning looking like she'd walked through hell. 7 years old, covered in dirt and blood, completely silent. Not crying, not speaking. Just standing there with dead eyes. Mira checked her for bites. Nothing. She was clean. "Honey, where are your parents?" Mira asked gently. Vesper didn't answer, didn't react, just stared. We brought her inside, fed her, gave her water. She ate mechanically, like her body was on autopilot, but her mind was somewhere else. Trauma, Mira diagnosed. Selective mutism. Probably. She witnessed something terrible and her mind shut down to protect itself. Will she recover? Maybe, with time and safety. Mira looked at Vesper with professional concern and maternal worry. Poor thing. Vesper stayed. We set her up in a corner of the second floor with blankets and a stuffed animal Riven found in the store inventory. She didn't play with it, just held it and stared at nothing. But here's the weird thing. She gravitated toward me. Wouldn't let me out of her sight. If I left the room, she followed. If I sat down, she sat nearby. She never spoke, but she watched me constantly. She trusts you, Mira said. Don't know why, but she does. I thought I knew why. Somehow, on some instinctual level, Vesper recognized that I was different, that I could protect her, that nothing could infect me, which meant I was safer than anyone else. Smart kid. 3 weeks after the outbreak began, we got our first real test. A group of 20 survivors showed up at our door, led by a hard-looking woman named Thalia Knox. They'd been holed up in a warehouse 15 miles away, but supplies had run out. We heard there might be people alive in Timber Falls, Thalia said. Heard you have supplies, food, medicine. I could see the desperation in their eyes. These people were starving. We have some supplies, I admitted, but not enough for 20 more people. We're not asking for charity. We'll work, hunt, scavenge, whatever you need. Riven and I exchanged looks. More people meant more mouths to feed, but it also meant more hands to help. More fighters if the safe zone soldiers came. Let me talk to my people, I said. We had a group meeting. Me, Riven, Mira, even Tommy got a vote. We can't feed that many, Mira said practically. Our supplies will last maybe 2 more months for our current group. Add 20 people and we're looking at 2 weeks. Then we scavenge more, Riven argued. Hit the other stores in town, the houses. There's still food out there. Protected by infected, I pointed out. Which you can handle. Your immunity is our ace in the hole. We're going to have to tell them, Mira said quietly. Everyone looked at her. About Kale's immunity, she continued. If we're going to absorb their group, they'll figure it out eventually. Better to control the narrative. Absolutely not, I said immediately. The more people who know, the more dangerous it becomes. Dangerous how? The safe zone is actively hunting Kale, Riven explained. They want to use him as a science experiment. If word gets out that he's here immune, that's 20 more people who could sell him out. You think I'd sell out the man who saved my son's life? Mira looked hurt. Not you, but them. We don't know these people. So we turn away 20 starving survivors because we're paranoid? We're not paranoid if they're really after us. I held up a hand. Enough. Here's what we do. We take in the group, but we test them first. Probationary period. They prove they can contribute, they follow the rules, then they stay. Anyone causes trouble or asks too many questions about me, they're out. That's harsh, Mira said. That's survival. We took in Thalia's group and set them up in nearby buildings that we fortified. Created a rotation for guard duty, scavenging runs, and food prep. Slowly, carefully, we built something that looked almost like a community. Thalia was tough but fair. She'd been a construction foreman before the outbreak, knew how to organize people and get work done. Under her leadership, the new group reinforced buildings, set up rainwater collection systems, and even started a small garden. You know what we're building here? Riven said one night, watching people work together. A settlement. A real, functioning settlement. Don't get too attached, I warned. The safe zone knows I'm here. Eventually they'll come. Let them come. We'll be ready. I wanted to believe that. Wanted to believe we could hold off a military force through sheer determination. But I knew better. The attack came 4 weeks after the outbreak. Lieutenant Thorne Keaton arrived at dawn with 30 soldiers, 6 vehicles, and a bullhorn. Cale Mercer, his voice echoed through the quiet streets. We know you're in there. Come out peacefully and no one gets hurt. I was watching from a second-floor window, Riven beside me. What do we do? He asked. We don't panic. We don't provoke them. We see what they want. They want you, man. That's pretty clear. Keaton continued. Mercer, your immunity could save thousands of lives. All we need is your cooperation. Blood samples, tissue biopsies, help us reverse engineer the serum. You'd be a hero. A hero in a cage, I muttered. And if you refuse, Keaton's voice hardened, we'll take you by force. We have orders, Mercer, and we will complete our mission. Riven chambered a round in his rifle. So we fight. No, we negotiate. I grabbed the bullhorn we'd salvaged from the school. Keaton, I'm willing to talk, but I need guarantees. There was a pause, then, what kind of guarantees? The people here. My people, they go free, they get supplies, they get protection, and I cooperate willingly. Another pause. That's acceptable. Come out and we'll discuss terms. Don't do it, Riven hissed. It's a trap. Everything's a trap. I grabbed my jacket. But I'm not letting anyone die for me. Cale, take care of them, especially Vesper and Tommy. They deserve a chance. I walked out before he could stop me. The morning air was cold. 30 rifles were pointed at me as I approached Keaton's position. He was exactly what I expected. Military precise, cold eyes, the kind of man who followed orders no matter the human cost. Smart choice, Mercer. Where's Mira Hollis? I know you grabbed her when she tried to get to the safe zone. Keaton smiled. Insurance. She and her son are fine. Cooperate and they stay that way. My blood ran cold. You're using a 9-year-old as leverage? I'm using whatever tools necessary to complete my mission. He signaled his soldiers. Restrain him. They moved fast, zip-tied my hands behind my back, shoved me toward a vehicle. That's when the shooting started. Riven from the roof, Thalia's people from windows. 20 guns opening up on Keaton's forces in a coordinated ambush. Chaos erupted. Soldiers diving for cover, return fire shattering windows. I threw myself behind a car, in hands still bound. One of Keaton's soldiers spotted me, raised his rifle, and got tackled by something small and fast. Vesper. The 7-year-old girl had somehow snuck out, grabbed a brick and bashed the soldier in the head with it. Then she was cutting my zip ties with a knife she'd stolen from somewhere, her eyes fierce and protective. Get back inside, I yelled. She shook her head and grabbed my hand, pulling me toward cover. The battle was brief but brutal. Keaton's forces were professional soldiers. But we had home field advantage and the element of surprise. After 5 minutes of firefight, Keaton called a retreat. "Fall back! Fall back!" They retreated to their vehicles, taking their wounded. Keaton looked at me one last time, fury in his eyes. "This isn't over, Mercer, and you can't hide forever." Then they were gone. I stood in the street, breathing hard, Vesper still holding my hand. Around me, our people were emerging from cover. 3 of ours wounded, 1 dead, a man from Thalia's group I'd barely known. "Are you insane?" Riven was yelling, running up to me. "You were just going to surrender? I was trying to save you." "Well, we saved you instead." "How's that feel?" Terrible. It felt terrible. Because that dead man? That was on me. My immunity, my past, my existence had gotten him killed. Vesper tugged on my sleeve. When I looked down, she pressed something into my hand. A drawing. Stick figures. Me, her, Riven, Tommy, all standing together. All protected. She still didn't speak. But the message was clear. You're not alone. For the first time since I'd woken up with no memories 3 years ago, I felt like I belonged somewhere. But belonging came with a price. That night, Mira and Tommy showed up at our door. They'd escaped during the chaos of the firefight. Mira had a gut wound, not fatal but serious. Tommy was crying, terrified. "They used my son," Mira gasped as Riven treated her injury. "Put a gun to his head to make me bait Kale out." "I'm sorry," I said uselessly. "Don't be sorry, be better." She grabbed my arm with surprising strength. "Stop trying to sacrifice yourself. We need you alive, fighting, leading." "I'm not a leader." "You saved my son's life. You risked everything for a kid you barely knew. That's leadership." She winced as Riven stitched her wound. "Now lead us somewhere safe." But where was safe? The safe zone was hostile. Timber Falls was compromised. Keaton knew where we were and would be back with reinforcements. "We need leverage," Thalia said during our strategy meeting that night. She'd taken the death of her man hard, but hadn't broken. "Something to make them think twice about attacking us." "Like what?" Riven asked. "We don't have artillery or air support. We have Kale's immunity, we just need to weaponize it." Everyone looked at me. "Explain," I said carefully. Thalia pulled out papers, looked like medical texts she'd salvaged. "Your blood is immune. What if we could use it to immunize others, temporarily even? Give them protection during scavenging runs, make our whole force immune to infection." "That's not how immunity works," Mira said. You can't just inject someone with immune blood and—" She stopped, looked at me with widening eyes. "Actually," she said slowly, "there is a precedent for passive immunity. Antibodies transferred through blood transfusion. It's temporary, maybe a month at most, but it could work. You want to bleed me to create temporary immunity for others?" I felt cold. "Not drain you dry, just regular donations like blood drives pre-outbreak." Mira was in medical mode now, thinking it through. "With proper technique, you could safely donate every few weeks. Each donation could potentially protect 2, maybe 3 people for 30 days. And if it works," Thalia added, "we go from 6 immune people to potentially dozens, makes us a much harder target." I looked at Riven. "What do you think?" "I think it's risky as hell, but I also think we're dead if we don't try something." I thought about Vesper's drawing, about Tommy's brave face despite his fear, about all these people who were counting on me. "Okay, we try it, but we start small, 1 test subject. If it works and they don't die horribly, we scale up." Riven raised his hand. "I volunteer." "Absolutely not." "Why not?" "I'm your second in command. If this works, I should be the first to benefit." "If it doesn't work, you could die." "Then I'll die proving your blood doesn't work. Either way, we get an answer." He had a point. "You're sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." We performed the first blood transfusion that night. Mira oversaw it using sterile equipment we'd salvaged from the clinic. 1 pint of my blood into Riven's veins, then we waited. And if this went wrong, he'd either reject the blood or have some kind of horrific reaction. Hour 1. Nothing. Riven felt normal. Hour 6. Still normal. Maybe a little energized. Hour 12. Normal. Day 2. Riven volunteered to get intentionally exposed to infected blood. I wanted to stop him. Mira did too. But he was determined to prove the theory. He cut himself. Applied infected blood to the wound. Waited. Nothing. No infection, no fever, no turn. The temporary immunity worked. Holy shit, Riven breathed, staring at his uninfected wound. Holy shit, it actually works. Word spread through our group. People started volunteering for transfusions. I created a schedule, 1 donation every 2 weeks, rotating through different recipients. And we could maintain maybe 15 people on temporary immunity at any given time. It changed everything. Suddenly we had scouts who could move through infected areas without fear. Scavengers who could raid deeper into dangerous territory. Defenders who couldn't be infected even if bitten during fights. Our community grew stronger, more organized, more hopeful. But hope has a way of drawing attention. 2 months after the outbreak, a new radio broadcast started. Different voice, not Lieutenant Keaton. This one was older, smoother, more confident. Attention survivors, this is Colonel Marcus Stroud of the Brotherhood of the New Dawn. We have developed a cure for the infection, derived from a sacred source blessed by Providence. Join us, receive immunity, become part of something greater than survival, and become part of rebirth. The broadcast gave coordinates, a location about 60 miles north. Sacred source? Riven said skeptically. What kind of cult shit is this? It's not a cult, I said, feeling ice in my veins. It's a hunt. For me. I'd heard that voice before, in nightmares, in fragments of memories. Colonel Marcus Stroud had been military overseer for Project Lazarus. The man who'd supervised my transformation from dying soldier to immune super soldier. The man I'd escaped from 3 years ago, and now he was back, using my immunity as bait to recruit an army. He knows I'm alive, I said. Probably has been tracking me somehow. Now he's offering fake immunity to build forces, get people desperate enough to hunt me down. How would he track you? Mira asked. Good question. I'd been careful. I stayed off-grid, used burner phones. Then I remembered something from my medical file, a detail I'd overlooked. His subject has subcutaneous tracking chip implanted in left shoulder. For monitoring purposes. I reached up, felt my left shoulder. There, a tiny bump under the skin. They chipped me, I said. Like a dog. They've always known where I am. Riven grabbed a knife. Then we cut it out. Wait! Mira started. Too late. Riven had already made the incision. Blood welled up. I reached in with fingers, felt around, found the tiny chip. Pulled it out. It was barely bigger than a grain of rice. But it had been broadcasting my location for 3 years. I crushed it under my boot. Too late, though, Thalia said grimly. If this Stroud knows you're in Timber Falls, he's probably already mobilized. She was right. We had maybe days before Brotherhood forces arrived. We fortify, I said. Prepare for siege, and we figure out how to turn my immunity into something that can save more than just us. Vesper tugged my sleeve. When I looked down, she handed me a folded piece of paper. I opened it. A drawing. More sophisticated than her previous ones. It showed a building. Looked like a laboratory. Figures in hazmat suits. And in the corner, 2 stick figures labeled Mom and Dad. I stared at her. Your parents were scientists? She nodded. They worked on Project Lazarus? Another nod. Vesper, do you know how to make the immunity serum? How to replicate what they did to me? She bit her lip. Then slowly shook her head, but she pointed to the drawing. and to a section that showed books, files, research notes. You know where the research is? She nodded vigorously. Can you show us? She grabbed a fresh piece of paper and started drawing a map, street names, building layouts, and in the center, Timber Falls Public Library. They hid the research in the library? Riven asked. Vesper wrote carefully. He's secret room, basement. Only Mom and Dad knew. We had the location of research that could potentially save everyone. Research that could turn my immunity from a unique accident into a reproducible cure. But we'd have to get to it before Stroud's forces arrived, and the library was on the other side of town, through infected controlled territory. We go tonight, I decided, and small team, fast insertion. He'd grab the research and get out. I'm coming, Riven said immediately. Me too, Mira added. Someone needs to stay and protect the settlement, I pointed out. That's what Thalia's for. Riven checked his weapons. You're going to need someone watching your back, and someone with medical knowledge to understand what we're looking for. Vesper tugged my sleeve again, pointed at herself. No, absolutely not. You're 7. She crossed her arms, stubborn. Vesper, it's too dangerous. She wrote, I know where, I know code, I know traps, you need me. Damn it. She was right. Fine, but you stay between me and Riven at all times, understood? She saluted, first hint of personality she'd shown beyond terror and protectiveness. We left at midnight, 4 of us, me, Riven, Mira, and Vesper, armed, prepared, knowing we might not make it back. The library was 2 miles through hell, infected everywhere, thick concentrations around what used to be the downtown area. We moved carefully, using my immunity to scout ahead, clearing paths for the others. I got bit 17 times that night, scratched maybe 50. Each wound healed within minutes, but the pain was real. Vesper watched me fight with wide eyes, saw me kill infected with brutal efficiency, saw me get torn open and heal. And instead of being scared, she looked proud. We reached the library at 2 a.m. The building was intact. Infected couldn't open doors, apparently, but the inside was dark, silent, possibly full of trapped infected who'd wandered in before the doors closed. Vesper led us to a maintenance door. He'd unlocked it with a key she'd been carrying around her neck. Inside, down dusty stairs to a basement I'd never knew existed. At the bottom, a steel door with a keypad. Vesper entered a code, 171717, subject 17, my designation. Her parents had used me as their password. The door opened. Inside was a laboratory, intact, untouched, preserved like a time capsule. And on the tables, research notes, formulas, protocols, everything needed to replicate the immunity serum. Mira grabbed files, reading by flashlight. Oh my God, this is it, this is everything, the complete Project Lazarus research. Can you understand it? I asked. Some. But there are notes here. They found a way to create temporary immunity without the memory loss. A version 2.0 of the serum. How temporary? 30 days, but renewable, and no side effects beyond minor fatigue. 30 days of immunity. Renewable. That could save thousands. How much of the base serum do they need? Mira scanned the notes. Her face fell. A lot. Approximately 2 liters of your blood to create 1 batch. Each batch can immunize maybe 50 people. 2 liters. That was nearly half my blood volume. I'll do it, I said immediately. Kyle, that could kill you. Then take it slowly. Drain me over time. Build up doses. You don't understand. The process requires fresh blood. They need 2 liters drawn within 1 hour to maintain viability. I would die. Probably. Giving up that much blood that fast. But 50 people would gain immunity, and they could donate blood to create more batches. Exponential growth of immunity. I could save everyone by destroying myself. Before I could respond, Vesper grabbed my hand, shook her head violently, tears in her eyes. She wrote frantically, No. No, die, please, you're all I have. My heart broke. Riven put a hand on my shoulder. We'll find another way. There might not be another way. Then we make one. Mira was still reading. Wait. There's a note here. About a failsafe. She read aloud. In the event that Subject 17 cannot safely donate sufficient blood volume, the immunity protein can be aerosolized using the subject's blood plasma and distributed via airborne dispersal. Coverage area approximately 2 miles. Duration 24 hours before degradation. Temporary immunity for all exposed individuals will last approximately 30 days. Airborne immunity, Riven said. They were going to make a immunity gas? Apparently, but it requires specialized equipment, chemical dispersal system, and still needs about half a liter of Kale's blood. Half a liter I could survive. Where do we get dispersal equipment? The hospital. They have chemical containment systems for handling biohazards. Of course, back to the damn hospital. We loaded the research into packs, every file, every note, every formula. This was too valuable to risk losing. That's when we heard it. Voices, outside the library. Human voices. Lots of them. Through a basement window I could see lights, torches, maybe 100 people surrounding the building, and one voice amplified by bullhorn. Kale Mercer, we know you're in there. Come out and join the Brotherhood, or we burn the building with you in it. Colonel Stroud had found us. We were trapped. 100 Brotherhood members outside, one exit, not enough ammunition to fight through. Ideas? Riven asked, rifle ready. Mira was pale. We can't fight that many. Vesper was gripping my hand so tight it hurt. I looked at the research, at the formula for airborne immunity, at the chance to save everyone. There's another way out, Vesper wrote, pointed to a maintenance tunnel in the corner. Where does it go? Hospital. Underground connection. For deliveries. Of course. The library and hospital shared a service tunnel. Perfect. New plan, I said. We use the tunnel, get to the hospital, create the airborne immunity, release it over Timber Falls, immunize everyone, including Stroud's army. That'll make them immune too, Riven pointed out. Exactly. They're only hunting me because they want to trade immunity for loyalty. If everyone's already immune, I have no value. Mira got it. You take away their leverage. Smart. We moved fast, through the tunnel which was cramped and dark and absolutely terrifying. Emerged in the hospital basement, same hospital I'd raided 2 months ago for Tommy's medication. Different world now. We made our way to the research wing, found the chemical containment lab. Mira started setting up equipment while Riven and I barricaded the doors. How long? I asked. To process your blood and create the dispersal agent? Maybe 2 hours. We don't have 2 hours. Stroud's people will figure out where we went. Then you'd better buy me some time. She was right. I looked at Riven. You up for one more fight? Always. We set up a defensive position, 2 against 100, terrible odds. But I was immune and enhanced, and Riven was the toughest son of a bitch I'd ever met. They came at us hard. Brotherhood members weren't soldiers. They were desperate survivors who'd been promised immunity in exchange for capturing me. Some had guns, some had makeshift weapons. All of them had hoped that I represented salvation. I hated killing them, but they didn't give us a choice. The fight was brutal, close quarters, Riven and I back to back, holding a choke point at the stairs. Blood everywhere, most of it not mine. Bodies piling up. The hospital echoed with screams and gunfire. I took dozens of hits, Bullets, knives, blunt instruments. My enhanced healing kept me in the fight, but the pain was real, overwhelming. Riven got hit, shoulder wound, kept fighting. Got hit again, leg, still fighting. Riven, fall back! Not without you! Then Stroud himself appeared. He looked exactly like my nightmares. Tall, gray hair, cold eyes, military bearing. He walked through his own dying soldiers like they were furniture. Subject 17, he said calmly. You've caused significant problems. Colonel Stroud, I replied. You've been a pain in my ass for 3 years. I saved your life, gave you purpose, power. You stole my memories, made me a lab rat. I made you a god among men, immune to death, superior in every way. He drew a pistol. And you ran away, like a coward. I prefer escaped like a survivor. He fired. The bullet caught me in the chest, hurt like hell, but I'd been shot before. My healing would handle it. Except this bullet was different. It burned like acid in my veins. I looked down and saw red tip, custom ammunition. Incendiary rounds, Stroud explained calmly. Designed to overwhelm even enhanced healing. You'll survive, but you'll be incapacitated long enough for extraction. He was right. I was going down, vision blurring, body not healing right. Stroud stepped closer. You should have died 3 years ago. Should have accepted your fate. Now I'll take you back and finish what we started. Behind him, I saw something move. Vesper. The 7-year-old had grabbed a scalpel from somewhere, was creeping up behind Stroud. No, 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 no. And I tried to shout a warning but couldn't make sound. Tried to move, but my body wouldn't respond. Vesper struck. The scalpel went into Stroud's neck. Precise. Perfect. Like she knew exactly where to hit. Her parents had been Project Lazarus scientists. She'd probably watched hundreds of medical procedures. Knew anatomy better than most adults. Stroud stumbled, fired his gun wildly, shots going everywhere. One caught the equipment Mira was using, the aerosol canister. It breached. Gas began pouring out, fast, uncontrolled. Mira screamed, "Everyone get out! The immunity gas, it's unstable!" But we couldn't get out. The stairs were full of Brotherhood members. We were trapped in a room filling with experimental gas. The gas was cold, tasted metallic. I could feel it in my lungs, my blood, in spreading through my body. Around me, everyone else was breathing it too. Riven, Vesper, Mira, the Brotherhood members who'd made it into the room. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then, screaming, people falling, convulsing. Oh God, the formula was wrong. The gas was killing them. I tried to move, tried to help, but the incendiary bullet was still burning in my chest. All I could do was watch as the people around me died. Riven went down. Vesper collapsed. Mira stopped moving. No, I'd killed them. My blood, my immunity had created poison instead of salvation. I was fading, vision going dark. The last thing I saw was Stroud dying from Vesper's stab wound, looking at me with something like satisfaction. You failed, he whispered, just like always. Then darkness. I woke up to pain. Full body, nerve ending on fire, please let me die, pain. Someone was pounding on my chest, hard. Come back, you bastard, Riven's voice, desperate, broken. Don't you fucking die on me, I gasped, coughed, air flooding my lungs. He's alive, Mira, also alive, thank God. I opened my eyes. We were still in the hospital lab, but the gas had cleared. Bodies littered the floor, Brotherhood members who hadn't made it. But Riven was alive. Mira was alive and... Vesper? I croaked. A small hand grabbed mine. She was there, pale, shaking, but alive. What happened? I managed. Mira helped me sit up. The gas worked, but it was too concentrated, hit everyone like a hammer. Most people passed out, some had seizures, but we're alive, and she held up a blood testing kit. We're immune. All of us? Everyone who breathed the gas, about 50 people in this building, all showing immune markers now. 50 people, including 24 former Brotherhood members. Stroud? I asked. Riven pointed to a body in the corner. Stroud, dead from blood loss. Vesper's scalpel had hit the carotid perfectly. I looked at Vesper. She was staring at Stroud's body with an expression I couldn't read. Not triumph, not guilt, just emptiness. He killed my parents, she whispered. First full sentence she'd ever spoken to me. During the outbreak? I asked gently. Before. They tried to shut down Project Lazarus, said it was too dangerous, said what they did to you was wrong. Her voice was small but steady. Stroud shot them, made it look like outbreak casualties. Hey, but I saw. 7 years old, witnessed her parents' murder, survived alone for 2 months. I pulled her into a hug. She buried her face in my shoulder and finally cried. We stayed in that hospital for 3 days, recovering, processing what happened. Testing the immunity in the surviving Brotherhood members to make sure it was real and lasting. It was. Everyone who'd breathed the gas showed complete immunity. The temporary version, 30 days, but renewable with another dose of gas. And we had the research. Mira could reproduce it. On day 4, we returned to Timber Falls. The settlement had held. Thalia had organized defenses, kept people safe. When she saw us coming back, alive, victorious, carrying the immunity research, she actually smiled. You did it, she said. Or you actually did it. We did it, I corrected. All of us. Over the next weeks, we created more immunity gas batches. Immunized everyone in Timber Falls. Word spread. Other survivors came. We vetted them carefully, but we accepted those who needed help. Our population grew to 500, then 800. We became Safe Zone Timber Falls, independent, self-sufficient, protected, and I became something I never expected. A leader, not because I wanted to, but because people looked to me, trusted me, saw me as the guy who'd sacrificed everything to save them. Riven became my second in command. Mira ran the medical operations. Thalia handled construction and logistics. Tommy, now 10, trained with me every day and was becoming a pretty good fighter. And Vesper? Vesper stuck to my side like glue. My unofficial daughter. My reminder of why all this mattered. 6 months after the outbreak, we got a radio broadcast from the actual government. This is General Patricia Hartwell of the United States Army. We are reasserting federal authority and establishing national reconstruction zones. All independent settlements are required to register and submit to federal oversight. The broadcast included a list of requirements: report immunity sources, submit to military command, surrender any experimental materials. In other words, they wanted me. We held a town meeting, debated our options. Some people wanted to comply, thought federal government could provide better resources and protection. Others wanted to fight, maintain our independence. I abstained from voting. This wasn't my decision alone anymore. The vote was close, but ultimately we voted to remain independent. That night I radioed General Hartwell directly. This is Cale Mercer of Safe Zone Timber Falls. There was a long pause. Then, Subject 17, we've been looking for you. I know, and I'm telling you now, we're not complying. We have immunity, we have resources, we have people worth protecting, and we're not trading our freedom for your oversight. Mr. Mercer, we could compel your cooperation. You could try, I said calmly. But I'm not the same lab rat you experimented on 3 years ago. I have a community, people who fight for each other. And if you come at us, you'll find we're harder to break than you think. Another pause. What do you want? To be left alone, to rebuild, to survive, and that's all. And your immunity research? is ours. We share it willingly with those who need it, but we don't hand it over to be weaponized or controlled. Hartwell was quiet for a long time. Then, I'll relay your position to my superiors. No promises. That's all I ask. She disconnected. Riven had been listening. Think they'll attack? Maybe. Probably. Eventually. And we just wait for it? No. We prepare. We build. We become too valuable to destroy and too difficult to capture. I looked out the window at our settlement. People working together. Building something real. We survive. 1 year after the outbreak, Timber Falls was thriving. Population 1,200. Organized farming, renewable power, education system, medical care, defense forces. We'd encountered and absorbed 3 other settlements. Shared the immunity gas. Created a network of independent zones working together. The infected numbers were dropping, naturally as the virus burned itself out. Riven got married to a woman named Astrid from one of the absorbed settlements. They were expecting their first child. Mira and Dr. Beck, the elderly doctor who joined us early, ran a full medical clinic now. Tommy was 12, training hard, wanted to join the defense force. And Vesper was 9 now, still quiet, but she smiled more, talked more, drew constantly. She'd started calling me Dad about 6 months ago. I didn't correct her. One evening I was standing on the roof of my old store, now our settlement headquarters, watching the sunset. Vesper climbed up to join me and handed me a new drawing. It showed Timber Falls. All 1,200 people drawn in her distinctive stick figure style, and in the center, me, Riven, Mira, Tommy, and her. Family. We did good, didn't we? She asked. Yeah, kid, we did. Are you happy, even without your old memories? I thought about that, about the life I couldn't remember, the person I used to be. I don't miss him, I admitted. Whoever I was before he's gone, but who I became, who I am now. I looked at her. I like him better. She hugged me. Me too. That night my old burner phone buzzed. I'd almost forgotten about it. Hadn't received a message in months. The text was from a number I didn't recognize. He's Subject 17. There are others like you. We're coming. Project Phoenix, he. I stared at the message. Others like me. You'd other enhanced soldiers, other escaped experiments, a threat. Or maybe allies. I showed the text to Riven. Here we go again, he said. Yep. What do we do? I looked at our settlement, at the people we'd saved, at the life we'd built from the ashes of the apocalypse. We prepare, we defend, we survive, same as always. And if they're hostile, then we fight, same as always. And if they're friendly, then we build something even better. I pocketed the phone. But either way, we face it together. Vesper appeared in the doorway. Dad, you okay? Yeah, kiddo, just got some interesting news. Good or bad? Don't know yet, but we'll handle it. I ruffled her hair. We always do. She smiled and went back inside. Riven clapped me on the shoulder. Ted, for a guy who doesn't remember his past, you've built a pretty good future. We built it, I corrected. All of us. Still, not bad for a zombie apocalypse. Not bad at all. We stood there in comfortable silence, watching Timber Falls prepare for night. Guards taking posts, families gathering for dinner, kids playing in the streets that had been filled with infected a year ago. We'd survived. More than survived. We'd thrived. And whatever came next, we'd face it the same way. Together. If you're hearing this, you survived too. Maybe you're in a settlement like ours. Maybe you're alone, scavenging, hiding. Maybe you found immunity some other way, or maybe you're just lucky and smart and stubborn enough to stay alive. And here's what I learned. Survival isn't about being strongest or smartest or having superpowers. It's about finding people worth surviving for. building something that matters, choosing when to fight and when to let go. I was an experiment, a weapon, a tool. They took my memories, my past, my choice. But they gave me something too, a chance to be better than I was, to build a new life from nothing. You can too. Stock up, fortify, trust carefully but trust someone. Find community or build one. Protect the people who make survival worth it. And if you're out there experimenting on people, forcing them to be heroes against their will, creating weapons from human beings, screw you. We're not your tools. Not anymore. This is Cale Mercer, Timber Falls, Oregon. Subject 17, the one who got away. Stay alive out there. Stay human. Stay free, because in the end, stories are how we remember we're still human, still here, still fighting, still winning. Author's note. Writing Cale's story changed me. Creating a character who lost everything, including his identity, then had to rebuild while the world ended around him. That cuts deep. The amnesia angle was tricky. I needed you to discover who he was alongside him, but more importantly, I needed you to care about who he became. The immunity is both superpower and curse. Being immune to zombie infection sounds great until you realize it makes you valuable commodity everyone wants to exploit. Cale can't just survive, he has to constantly choose between helping others and protecting himself. Riven evolved from comic relief to emotional anchor, men supporting men, in showing vulnerability, crying together, choosing each other as family. That's real strength. Not the superhuman abilities, not the combat skills, the brotherhood. Vesper wrecked me. 7 years old, lost her parents, went nonverbal, slowly healed through found family with Kyle. Their relationship became the heart of the story. Both lost their pasts. Both found new futures. The ethics haunted me while writing. When is it okay to force someone to help others? Is Cale obligated to share his immunity even at cost of his health or freedom? When does self-preservation become selfishness? I don't have answers. Neither does Cale. What I want to know. Would you take the immunity serum if it meant losing your memories? Would you donate blood monthly to save strangers? Would you sacrifice yourself for a cure that might not work? What does community mean when society collapses? Who do you save when you can't save everyone? And the big one, is immunity a gift or a curse? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if Cale's choices made sense. Tell me if Dr. Vaughn's sacrifice broke your heart. Tell me if you cried when Vesper finally spoke. If this story resonated, if Cale and Riven and Vesper felt real, hit that subscribe button. Share it. Your support makes it possible to write more of these survival narratives. Thanks for surviving this story with me. Now go prepare your own fortress, stock up, find your Riven, protect your Vesper, and ask yourself, who would you be if you lost everything and had to start over? Be that person now, don't wait for the apocalypse.